All right, let's switch to Kolkata Knight Riders, who, as per Akash Chopra, came for window shopping. They had 7 crores, 7.05 crores with 11 slots to fill, and they ended up picking Shakib Al Hasan, Litton Das. So, Adi, what do you think of Kolkata Knight Riders' auction strategy?
I think given they had 7 crores, they did a really good job in my opinion. Right? Like they just had 7 crores, they couldn't do much. They couldn't pick the superstars. Shakib is underrated. I think, especially now when you're playing your matches in India, Shakib will be useful. Many pitches will aid spinners. I actually wanted SRH or some other bidding war to happen for Shakib, but unfortunately, no one else took him. Leighton Das is in the form of his life. I think he scored the highest number of runs or something, top three in international cricket or something. So he's doing well for them. And then they got a steal with Jagadishan, right? Like CSK released him. He's in really good form. I'm not saying you should have gone for like 4-5 crores, but none of the other teams kind of like put in that much of a bid. So 90 lakhs is a good amount for him. And David Visa is also like a decent option, like as a backup option for Russell, right? So with the 7 crores, they did okay overall. They still have like a lot of gaps. It's not like very clear. They did a good. They did these trades, right? They got Lockie Ferguson and Shardul Thakur. So that kind of like beefed up their bowling after Cummins left. I think they did a really good strategy by leaving out Cummins. I think it was like 14 or 15 crores. So in that money, they got like with 20 crores. They
7
got,
CR. Cummings got 7 CR.
hmm.
Yeah, 7, and the most money came from this guy, Shivam Mavi. Shivam Mavi
Oh,
was
that
10
was eight
CR, I
to
think.
ten, and they let him go. Like they
Ah,
didn't go back with him. So now they've got like Loki and Shardul, I
Shardul.
think, which is like a good option. It all depends. Like KKR season kind of depends on how like these four players turn up, right? Like Venkatesh Iyer, then you got Varun
Russell
Chakravarti,
Kravarti.
and then you got Narain and Russell. Like it all depends on these four. If they turn up and if they do well, they'll have a good season. If they don't turn up, they don't have too much of like backup strength to kind of like make up for those holes.
I think KKR this time, Shreyas Iyer is a different player now. I think I was seeing a post from RCB Insta. Shreyas Iyer has scored the maximum number of runs for India the last 1 year. So with Shreyas Iyer, you have a very strong performing captain. And I think with Jagdishan should keep Nitish Rana and Venki Iyer on their toes. They need to find out a way to get Jagdishan into the 11. And Litton Das, fantastic pick, highly underrated. Syed, we were discussing, I think, before the auction. I told you he'll get picked. So see, when they traded in Gurbaz, we were thinking that is Gurbaz your 14 match player? Now they have an ample, they have a great alternate. So Gurbaz can play few matches, Litton can play few matches. So good team. The only problem I had is paying Shardul Thakur 10 CR. I mean, I don't know. Shardul Thakur 10 CR is, and you need the player that Shardul Thakur is, right, with limited skills. You need a captain like Dhoni to to make best use of whatever limited resources you have. With Shreyas Iyer as captain, not sure how Shardul Thakur will do.
See, I think
Frankly,
KKR has consistently done well only if you see when their openers are fired, both all guns blazing, right? So if you see from the historic matches, right from Mekulam started and then Gambhir, Uttappa, and then we had Len, Narain rising up, right? But that has not happened in the recent days. You had a lot of openers changing. They had Gill who was not firing, and strike rate was an issue. They had Aaron Finch, there was a backup. They took Hales, Roy, everyone dropped out. So basically, their opening slot was always been a problem if they're not fired well, right? That way, I think Gurbaz should actually get a lot of matches because he's an explosive opener. Provided if he fails, you always have a backup which they've picked up well as Jagdishan. What other than that they've done well is two of their injury-prone players, which is also aging players, Narain and Russell. So they have Sakib who can bowl 4 overs and can be middle order slogger, and you also have Vize who can also bowl 2 to 3 overs, which currently what Andrew Russell is doing. So probably whatever money they had, I think it's a great auction for them. At least they've tried to fill up the spots which they think is going to be the weak area.
Plus,
for
be
me,
interesting
picking
to see.
Jagadishan. Go ahead, Sanjay. Go ahead.
Plus, it be interesting to see how they to post the Baz McCullum era, because now he's no longer the coach. Be interesting to see if they have experiments like Varun Chakravarti opening, etc. So, but I think got a very strong starting 11. Backup players is a question mark maybe, but all the teams will benefit from the impact player rule, and I think this year people will still figure out how to use it, and then next year onwards you'll probably see more stronger strategies built around the impact.
For me, actually, Jagadisan is the third excellent pick in this auction, behind Stokes and Holder, because now you don't have to play Gurbaz all 14 games. Definitely, Jagadisan has to play all the 14 games, considering his current form as well. And if he opens the innings, that solves the problem again with the opening part as well. You have one opener who's going to be consistently playing all 14 games and keeping as well. That will help you play Shakib in the middle order, and you have Shakib bowling 4 overs and Narayan bowling 4 overs in the middle overs, which is going to constrain the opposition. And then you have, of course, your Indian contingent with the bowling with Lockie Ferguson. This actually completes the team. Had Jagadisan not been picked and they had been forced to play either a Leighton Das or a Gurbaz, say, all 14 games, then they would have struggled maybe, in the middle order perspective. They would have to play some Indian batsman who's not, good enough to play in the middle order. Like last time how they played Sheldon Jackson and other players. So I think Jagadisan was the masterstroke. Out of the 7 crores, I think that was the only part which was well spent in the entire auction.
And I think Jagdishan, I was thinking that probably after Mayank Agarwal, is going to be the most sought after Indian batsman. At least I was expecting 3-4 CRs. I mean, it was
a cheap
very
buy.
surprising
He came
no
up with
other
a
team went for it.
Indian player, basically he came much later in the auction. By the time all your crores are already gone for this all-rounders and international openers.
all the
Punjab
budget
had-
was gone. Yeah.
And another downside of Jagdishan, unfortunately, is he only had domestic performances to back, and the recency bias kicks in only when it is an international match or you have a high-profile match. I think that's also another aspect of why Jagdishan went solo. I really hope he has a fantastic season next season, because he deserves much more money than what he's got. But yeah, CSK loss and KKR win.
The same thing which happened to Sky as well. When Sky initially started playing for Kolkata Knight Riders, he was not so sought after kind of a batsman, but he showed what he can actually do and then went into Mumbai Indians, and then things were different. Jagadisan, this might be the year which actually gives him the opportunity out there.
Sky still well
And
underpaid.
Gambhir, and Gambhir said also, right, my biggest regret as KKR captain was letting Sky go. वो अलग बात है, he keeps changing his opinion, right? Sometimes somebody is best player, best reliever